Alright, now we're going to cover a little bit of... Son of a bitch. Going to cover a little bit of territory right here at the beginning of this video. First off, I got an email last night that YouTube finally, after 2.5 months of waiting, is going to let me monetize my channel. I know that might put some people off because some people don't like ads, but I wanted to do it. Not because I'm looking to make a shit ton of money, but like the old GoPro here is gotta be pushing 7 years old, and I know one of these days she's gonna give up the ghost on me. And my laptop is shoot 4 or 5 years old, so that's gonna be giving up the ghost on me here at some point. And basically, it would just be nice to be able to make a little bit of money off of this so that when I do need a new camera or do need a new laptop, the videos are helping to pay for it and I'm not just doing it all out of my own pocket. And maybe if I make enough extra projects like the 2255 and that Super 77 diesel and some of the stuff that people want to see me work on might get done a little quicker. So anyhow, I'm going to go through and any of my old videos that are eligible for monetization, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Like I say, I'm not trying to turn this into a cash cow. It'd just be nice to make a little something off of it so that I have some money to make it a little better, possibly. So, there's that. And the next part, or the next thing that we're going to do is for Greg Henry, because he was asking what that plate was for at the front of the beam. He thought it was for adding bottoms. All the bottoms on these you add off the back. The five bottom base frame could go out to an 8 bottom. Although if you went to 7 and 8, there was an arch that bolted to the top of the frame to brace it because it got so long. And then the 4 bottom could go out to 6. So what this plate was for, and I'm pretty sure that Oliver was the only company that you could ever do this with. Right now, this plow's set up for 16-inch bottoms. You could set this same exact frame up for 14-inch bottoms. All you did was you took this and swung it around to this set of holes, and you used that hole. So this came around flush with the front beam. And then there's an extra set of holes, which I think when you set it up for 16 inch, there is a 16-inch cut are actually hidden. But in the book here, you can see you always use these 3 holes, and then the holes in your plow beam are slotted so that when you want to go to a 14, you pivot the plow beam and you use that hole instead of that hole. So basically, and I doubt that anybody did this on a yearly basis, like if they switched to heavy ground, they swapped her all over to 14-inch, because that would just be a total pain. But basically what that did was ease in manufacturing. They had to make one plow frame, and then when it got to the dealer, if the guy wanted 14-inch bottoms or if the guy wanted 16-inch bottoms, they would put the plow together accordingly. And if you did get a 16-inch plow and you wanted to take it down to 14s or whatever, you use the same moldboards and everything. You just, instead of taking a 16-inch slice, the way everything was arranged on the beam, you were only taking a 14-inch slice. So, yeah, this is the 16-inch hole, and then if you loosened everything up and pivoted around, that's the 14-inch hole. And then these holes are just, I think, for extra attachments, depending on how you ordered the plow set up. And somewhere, maybe it is, no, I think it'd be these 3. These 3, and then there'd be 3 more on the back. If you went out to an 8 bottom, there was you use these 3 holes, and there was a plate with a big pipe arch that would go up and over. And then somewhere I'd have to go up and look at the 7 bottom. Somewhere in the middle there was another set of holes, and then you had a matching plate on the back with a center support, and that would help stiffen the plow up when you went out to 8 or 7 or 8 bottom. So anyhow, because this plow and my big 7 bottom are actually the exact same frame, it's just how they're set up is different. So anyway, that is that. Hopefully that answers your question, Greg. Pretty simple explanation for it. And then I got this here fancy wrench. It's a Tactics 1 5/16". $11 wrench off Amazon. I couldn't believe I got it that cheap. And you're gonna think, well, I thought you didn't like cheap tools. Well, I do hate cheap tools, but because on these cylinders I had to make the wrench landing so short, our Craftsman and our Williams wrenches, the head's too fat, and when you put the wrench on there, it was hanging out past the rod like a 1/16 of an inch. So if you went to jam the nut on there, you'd jam the wrench on there. Well, I wanted a cheap ass wrench that I wasn't going to be worried about modifying, and I'm going to go in here and scallop some of the edge out so that it fits up tighter on the rod, so that you can use this to back the rod up when you're running the jam on and still be able to get the wrench on and off. And I'll probably make a hook somewhere on the plow, and this wrench will just stay on the plow, and this will just be a plow wrench, and it'll get rusty and crusty, and I won't care because it's an $11 cheap ass wrench off of Amazon. So in hindsight, I should have figured out what size the nuts are, and I should have just bought 2 cheap ass wrenches off Amazon and hung them both on the plow, and they can both get nasty and rusty and crusty, and I won't care because they're cheap ass wrenches off Amazon. But I think those are the 3 topics I wanted to get covered right here at the beginning. So I've still got 3 bottoms to knock off of this and get freed up, and then by all right, should be able to start putting a hydraulic system together. So we will get that done and catch you guys when we start mounting cylinders. Alright, so I got 1 cylinder back on, and this time it's got the matching right pins in it, and I don't know why on earth they didn't bother putting jam nuts on these from the factory, because there is plenty of room for it. There's still probably 2.5 threads past the nut, and the hole lines up for the most part. There's enough slop in this bolt and that pin that it's not perfect. I'm going to have to probably end up getting new bolts and making new pivot bolts for it, because this one and this one aren't bad, but those front 3 are wore. They probably got 1/8 of an inch wore off of them or better, so they got a little bit of slop in them. But they're 1 inch 12 by 3.5, so standard national fines. Just got to get them. And they're grade H, which are a little fun to machine because they got they're kind of case hardened a little bit. Once you get through the case on them, they're not bad, but they machine a little funny. You got to be careful. But anyway, what I'm doing is because in the book they tell you put all the cylinders on fully retracted and then fill them with the tractor hydraulics to get all the air out of them. Well, I'm cheating a little bit, and I'm pre-filling them with oil before I'm putting them on. That way I can get everything set where it should be. And then what you do, and even in the book it tells you to do this, you crack all the fittings loose on the cylinders and bump your hydraulics till you start getting oil with no air at them, and then you tighten them up, basically like bleeding injector lines on a diesel, just on down the line. And if it follows true, they should literally go, this one should do first, second, third, those 2 up next to the accumulator will be a little funky because the place you fill is right here. So actually that and that would probably bleed up first, then that, and then, so yeah. Anyway, however it ends up working, not that important. So, and I'm also converting, they had pipe thread on both sides, which pipe thread sucks, especially with a swivel. So I'm putting half-inch pipe to number 10 JIC port adapters in the cylinder, leaving the pipe down on the manifold. That way I have A, more fitting options up here to make it look a little cleaner coming off the cylinders. And B, it makes assembly easier because JIC swivels are a lot nicer than pipe swivels. And they don't leak. Pipe swivels tend to leak. So, anyhow, yeah, basically just filling these up with oil and putting them on there. And I got my wrench modified. Just took a grinder and put a chamfer on, and I think I might do the other side too, just to make it easier so I can flip the wrench if I need to, but it works the way it is. So yeah, that's really all there is to it. Well, all the cylinders are on. Had to run the Rural King and get some more hydraulic oil because I ran out before I get the last cylinder done, figures. But got all those on, and then I made a holder for my wrenches. I'm gonna have to, somehow of all stupid things, we don't have an 1 7/16 wrench, which is fine because I want to have an 1 7/16 wrench to keep with this, so that if I need to work on these things in the field, you can. So I'm just gonna go ahead and buy another cheapo Amazon wrench to keep on here. So I made this thing big enough to hold 2 wrenches and possibly 3, whatever. It's big enough to hold a few wrenches. And left it open bottom so shit can't, it's literally just there to hold wrenches. So yeah, that's really it for what we're getting done today. I went through and greased it all just to make sure all the zerks took grease. Everything took grease. So next step is going to be getting the manifold put back together and getting the accumulator put back on, which is probably going to happen later this week or next weekend, because I think this week I'm going to bring the what's left of the old 5-bottom back down that I tore apart and get all the frogs tore apart, because I need 3 land sides and I need all the braces for the maul boards, because there's only one on this that's actually a factory one and all the other ones are homemade. So get that done, and they'll stack a lot easier because I'll take the maul boards and everything. I'll probably blow the bolts out with torch and they'll stack on the pallet a lot nicer. So I guess got the 19 down idling right now, warming up. Get this thing out of here so Mom can have her parking spot back. And try to get this video up yet tonight while I got time. So I guess that's it for this one, and we'll probably catch y'all sometime here in the middle of the week. Hey,